see religion, right, it provides, right, this sense of purpose, right? They're the principles, the values, those spiritual concepts that fuel, right, that are supposed to fuel our desire to act. And so I think the role of religion is for, us to ensure that we're translating our principles into practice, right? We can look at the history of movements. You look at the Civil Rights Movement, where they had the Christian Foundation that motivated Dr. King and others that were involved in that movement. It was in putting the practices of Christianity into action. And we look at it in terms of the broad population of Christians. That group was a minority of the Christian population. You see, everybody wasn't out there. Everybody wasn't looking at the teachings in that way and enacting them in that way. And we look at every faith. Every faith has admonished its believers to identify with those who are dispossessed, right? To identify with the downtrodden, right? In the Baha'i writings, it says being upholder and defender of the victims of oppression. Remind the wealthy of the midnight, remind the rich of the midnight sign of the poor. And so this should be at the front of our minds. As I said earlier, if we claim to believe these things, then we must be doers of the word, right? In the Bible, it says Moses was a doer of the word. We have to do, right? Baha says that deeds, not words, be your adorning. We can talk about the wonders of humanity all day, but as the letter says, it creates a moral imperative for us to act. It says, he whose words, your words exceed your deeds, your death is more precious than your life. So we got to enact religion. It cannot be just something that we espouse.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. There's another presentation that I'm preparing for, and when I bring in spirituality, it's in an educational arena, and people get nervous, and they said, we can't really talk about it. And I said, look, that is the issue. The issue is that words like religion and spirituality have been used in these systems of oppression. And so now people cannot use them for what they were intended for, which is transformation. So if we're going to talk about social justice, if we're going to talk about eliminating racial prejudice, you cannot talk about that without talking about religion and spirituality. There's no way. And so that itself is the issue, right? So if you want to say we need to dismantle these systems of oppression, then you have to take back some of the words that they took and try to reorient and give them back their true destination, right? So Baha'u'llah talks about divine revelations, and he says, is it not the purpose of every divine revelation to affect a transformation in the whole character of humanity, right? A transformation that will affect both its inner and outer reality. That's the deal. Every divine revelation came to transform humanity. And so transformation is not pretty. I don't know if you're all seen a caterpillar when it's inside a little cocoon. It doesn't look pretty when it's not going to try and become that butterfly. Things get dismantled, it gets mushy, it's gross, right? That transformation is not always a pretty process, right? But in that process of moving through transformation, that's where your spiritual muscles get developed. Your faith, the ability to remember the truth about who you are, the ability to remember the truth about who others are, right? You change the way you actually walk this world, right? So if we're going to try and, transform society in this new framework for justice, there is no way you can do that without calling on a higher source that comes through these divine revelations. There's no way, right? And so I think Anthony was referencing, all of these powerful manifestations of God, right? Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, right? The Buddha, right? You look at their lives were transformative, right? Their lives depicted that transformation, as did Baha'u'llah's, as did the Bab, right? And so for us, right, we also then need to think of, how do I allow this spirit of this faith to transform who I am, right? And the way that I kind of like my little barometer around that is if everything in my life looks the same, then I've not allowed transformation to happen, right? Like my relationship with my husband should have shifted, my children, the way that I do things, how I walk, the way I spend my time, the way I organize my day, everything should be shifting. And what it should be shifting towards is closer towards love, right? Love, it has to be closer towards love, right? I have to be willing to forgive a lot easier. If I'm not doing that, I still got a lot more transformation to go. And those things, just referencing back to what we mentioned earlier in terms of, you know, wanting systematic change now, which I understand, because me too, I mean, I understand that, being tired and just saying, gosh, you know, that 400 years, can we do it now, right? I understand that feeling. When you change the heart, you have no idea the reverberations of what that is going to cause, because hearts, which belong to people, create systems. So that what I wanted when I was in college, I wanted systemic change. By changing hearts, those systems change. So I should be really interested in ensuring that all those principles of the educational system, all those teachers of the educational system, all those wardens of the prison system, their hearts need to change, because when their hearts change, those systems will radically change. There's no way a warden of a prison system will endure serving in that position, knowing the oneness of humanity truly in his heart. There's no way he would put any human being that is noble in nature in a cage. There is no way he would do that. So those systems would radically change, right? And so for me, today I realize that's the deal. That's the deal. We want to shift hearts, right? And we have a systematic way of doing that today. And thankfully we have technology, which allows us to really push forward in a way that we've never had before. It's unprecedented. It's so exciting.
I would add to that I think that there's also another piece of work that religion does, and that is constantly reminding us about the presence of spiritual reality against the backdrop of our materialist or materially centered everyday lives. You know, there's so much consciousness and power that come from the spiritual dimension of life and of reality. It's easy to forget about it, and there are some systems of belief now that virtually negate it. But I think that religion is always there to remind humanity that we have a spiritual dimension, that we are spiritual beings, as the letter states, that there is a spiritual reality beyond this material world to which we are connected and to which all of Earth is connected. And it reminds us to, even though it's a mystery, to keep pursuing it and to stay connected to it, and to help us understand that it is also a fundamental foundation of our unity. You know, this unity that exists, even though we are obscuring it with our lack of awareness, and you know, the other ways that we interfere with its realization, it is fundamentally spiritually rooted, you know? And so religion is always there to give us information about that reality, to remind us about that reality, to remind us who we are, to remind us that we're spiritual beings.